So here's where we left off yesterday. We have sort of our back band right there. Our front band was put together, and then we did the cups and then sewed them into the band as well. So this is all of the fabric portion of the bra done. Today we are going to start out by putting in the underwire casing that goes along the bottom of the cup. Then we're going to put in our top elastic and then our bottom elastic and our straps and hook and eye. So at the end of today, we will have a finished lovely lace bra. So let's get started. So the first step today is to put in the underwire channeling. So this is what the under channeling looks like. It's plush. It's a really, really soft material, which is good because this is what's going to be against your body. And it definitely rubs a lot just because of where it is. So it has a really plush side, and then the other side is a little bit scratchier, a little bit more industrial strength looking. And sometimes they have a little bit of stretch to them, kind of like a bias stretch. This one does not. If you find some with stretch in it, I think it does make it a little bit easier to do that curve, but it's by no means required. So what we're going to do is take the pieces that we worked on yesterday. We're going to take the back band and sort of push that under so that we're only working in the seam allowance right now. You don't want to be sewing into anything that shows up on the outside. So I take the channeling and I'm going to line it up with its edge against my line of stitching, and then I'm going to sew just inside that so I can just catch it. So you're just sewing that underwire channeling to the seam allowance and nothing else at this time. Now you're going to want to start maybe like an inch down. You don't want to start at the top of this underwire or top of the cup, just because we're going to be putting elastic in up here, and so it makes it a little bit easier if you start down, I'm going to say 1.5 inches. So here I've sewn this in. So like I said, you want to start with this end free, but you do want to sew all the way to the very end of the center front where your bridge is, because you're not going to be putting any elastic there. So the next thing that we do is, while it's still free and only sewn to that seam allowance, is we just want to cap off the end of the channeling. So I'm just going to take a straight stitch and go back and forth, maybe like 4 or 5 times right there. Okay, so now I've just capped off the end of that. We can cut it. And now we can just repeat that for the other cup. So now we have both of our underwire channeling sewn into that seam allowance. You see, eventually this will be sewn in flat and sort of cover all of these exposed seams, but for now we're going to leave it open, and that's because we're going to do the bottom elastic first. So the bottom elastic is going to be the wider of your 2 picots. In my case, I'm going to be using one that is, I think this looks like 1/2 inch. Yeah, looks like 1/2 inch. My other one is like probably 3/8 of an inch. So your picot elastic has a soft side. That's what you want to go against your body. And then the other side looks a little bit more rough. And then you have a picot edge, which is the decorative little scalloped edge, and then a flat edge. Now, if you've watched any of my other sewing tutorials or bra sewing tutorials, you should be fairly familiar with how we normally do it, which is to sew it on the outside and then flip it to the inside. But because we have this lovely scalloped edge on our lace and we don't want to lose that, this one is going to be applied a little bit differently, and it's going to give us what's called a Gothic arch. So what you want to do is apply it directly to the inside of the bra, and we want to make sure that our plush edge is facing up, so that's what's going to be touching us. You kind of want to start it where the seam line is for this cup, because this will fully encase it later. So you want to start it there. You want to cross the front and just follow along the bottom of the bra. And we're going to use sort of like a wide 3-step zigzag stitch. I'm just going to take one pass with the machine all the way to the end of the bra. Okay, so we have the bra with the insides facing up. You have the picot with the plush side facing up. We have the end of the picot butted up against that cup seam line, and we have the scalloped edge of the picot facing towards the bottom of the bra. So here's how that looks. We have one side done, and now we're just going to complete the other side. Again, we're going to start with the plush side facing up. So I'm going to trim this angle so it works a little bit better for me. So plush side facing up, butt that to that seam allowance. You want to cross over. You sort of want to make sure that you're crossing right at that center front, and then continue sewing along the bottom of the line here. Now, sometimes you might notice that your lining is a little bit longer than your lace. You see your lace scallop dips down, the lining is sticking out a little bit. Don't worry about that. You can just trim it right now if that bothers you, or you can leave it the way it is. It's not a big deal. Okay, so here we have all of that bottom band sewn in, and like I said, from the front you can't really see any of that stitching, so if you don't get this to cross exactly in the middle, it's not a big deal. I've also gone ahead and sort of trimmed back my lining bits a little bit so that that pretty scallop lace is exactly what you see and nothing extra. So now we can move along to the top part of the band, and this one is going to use the thinner picot elastic, and this is going to be put on in the sort of classic method that we've done previously. So you want to take your picot, again you have a plush side and then a not plush side. You want to line it up so that the straight side of the elastic is on the straight side of the bra, and you want to sew this on with a zigzag stitch from the top side of the bra, so the side that would be facing out, and then we're going to sew with a zigzag really close to that picot scalloped edge. So here you can see I've just sewn that to the top of the bra. I will say, when you're sewing this, remember that how we left this underwire channeling free, you want to make sure that you push that out of the way so you're not sewing that down. You want to make sure that you sew the elastic on without catching that bit at all. And then when you get to the top of the cup right here, I would leave yourself a good, say, inch. Because this is what's going to be used to attach the strap down the road. So now that we have this sewn to the outside, if you notice any parts like right here where your fabric is sticking out, you can always trim that down to get a little bit cleaner of a finish. So the next thing you want to do is turn the bra to the inside, and then you want to take that picot and fold it in. So if you've done this right, you should have the plush side still facing up, and if you look at it from the outside of the bra, all you're going to see is just a little peek of that little edge of that elastic, and that's what you want to do. So from the bottom of the bra, right, we had it like this and we folded it in. So now we're going to be looking at the inside of the bra, and again we're going to do a line of zigzag stitching. This time we're going to go as close as we can to the straight edge of the elastic. So that is what the second line of stitching will be from the inside, and then on the outside all you'll see is just the edge of that elastic. So I'm going to repeat that step for the other side of the bra as well, which I have done here. And then we're going to finish up this underwire channeling. So the reason that we put it in first is because it would be a little bit tricky to put it in afterwards, but we don't want to sew it in all the way because it's going to end up overlapping with that bottom elastic here, and we want it to go over top of the elastic up here. So what I'm going to do from the outside is I'm going to make sure that the channeling is pushed out, so not in the cup section but in the band section, like this. And then I'm going to take a line of stitching probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the bottom of the cup curve, and I'm just going to do a straight stitch all the way around, and that's going to tack that underwire channeling in place. So you can see how we have just a fairly faint line of stitching just on the band side of that curve. And the next thing I do is I like to turn around on the inside and then sew as close as I can to the other edge. Some people still do this from the outside of the bra, and they just say, oh, I'm going to do 5/8, 3/4 of an inch away. But I find that if I try to do that, it doesn't work out very well for me, and I might get too narrow in here and my wire might not fit through. So I always turn around and sew the second side from the inside of the bra. So once you've sewn along the other side, it should look something like this. You'll see it's very flush with the bra. And again, you want to repeat that for the other underwire channeling as well. Now you may notice that your underwire channeling is too long, and that is okay. It's just because when we put this elastic on, the fabric folds down, so we can just snip that off. So it's flush with the top. So we're really, really, really close. You can see how you still have this little power bar pocket right here. The other tricot stabilizer that we put in the center is completely covered up on its ends. Its ends are underneath all of this elastic and channeling. So that's why I just let it float, because I know that it's going to get taken care of eventually. So I'm using a 3x3. That is my preferred width. And you can see that it fits almost exactly in here with that lace. So we have little pockets in the eye portion as well as the hook portion. So we just want to shove the end of the bra into there and sew it with a zigzag stitch. Now in terms of what side gets which one, it definitely makes a difference. One time I've flip-flopped it and I find it almost impossible to get that bra on because it's just not where I expect it to be. So if you have the bra laying down, imagine you're inside of it, right? Your body is in here. You're gonna want the eyes to go on the left hand side and the hooks to go on the right hand side. So you find that little pocket. Push it inside there. And now we're just going to sew with a zigzag stitch down the length of that. So here we have the hooks applied, and now we will just do the eyes. So again, I find it easier to just look at the bra like the way I'm wearing it. You want to make sure that the hooks are going to point inwards, and then the side that doesn't have anything is going to be on the outside or lace side of the bra. So you just sort of shove that into the pocket. Make sure that it looks like it's going to function the way it should. And then I like to sew this one from the inside of the bra with a zigzag stitch. And I have to take off my walking foot and just put a regular presser foot on, just because I don't have very much space in between there. So that is how the hooks will look once they are attached. You can see my zigzag actually comes off of it a little bit just because I don't have enough space, and that is certainly okay as long as one side of the zigzag catches to the hooks. So now we are going to do the straps. So first we need to make the straps. We'll set this aside for a second. I'm going to be using a 5/8 of an inch strap elastic, and it is sort of satin shiny on one side and then more plush on the other. And the satin shiny side is what faces out. I tend to do about a 18-inch strap for myself, but you can do longer or shorter, whatever you think works best for you. So I'm going to cut 2 lengths of 18. So now I have my 2 straps. I'm going to start putting on the hardware. I'm actually going to be using 4 of these like figure 8 hooks, just because that's what I have in this size. I buy these in bulk off of eBay, and I think I get about 100 of the silver ones for under $3. So I have a lot of the figure 8s, and so it's okay to use multiple figure 8s. You just can't use multiple O-rings. So we're going to take it, we have the shiny side, this is the shiny side, and we want it to go up and then back down to the slider. So we have the shiny side facing out, plush side is still under here. So I'm going to take a straight stitch and go back and forth to secure this. So now we have that secured. So I'm going to go to the other end of it, and you can either use a ring at this point, or as I said, I'm going to use another slider. So I'm going to put the slider on, and I have the plush side facing out and the shiny side facing in, and I'm just going to go through the left edge of the slider. And then I'm going to bring that end back over here and go up and back down again. So we have shiny side facing out now. It's a little difficult trying to do this in the camera viewfinder. Okay, there we go. So you have the bit that we did before, and then the outside is just going back up and around, and then you should have a little slider on the end of this, or a ring. So if we cinch this back down, this is what it should look like. And this is what's going to attach to the bra itself. Okay, so once you have both of your straps made in the same manner, you can start attaching them to the bra. So what I've done is I've just taken a friction pen, and I've marked 2 inches away on the top, and then 1.5 inch away on the bottom from the edge of my hook and eye. I will take my strap, and we want the plush side facing up, and I'm just going to place it so that the edge of my strap is just on the outside of those 2 marks that I've made. And then I'm going to use like a tacking stitch, which is just a really dense zigzag, and go back and forth on both of those to keep them in place. Okay, so I have tacked those in place, and now we just want to attach the strap to the front of the bra. So you just want to make sure that it's not twisted or tangled at all. And go over here. And then remember we left this extra bit of elastic on top, and that's what we are going to use to string through the bottom of that slider. Or as I said before, you can use just a ring, and the ring will be a circle that goes around both of those 2 pieces. And then with the same tacking stitch, I'm just going to tack this elastic in as well. So here you can see I've tacked it in, and then I've just cut off whatever excess elastic I have left. The last and final step is to just slide the wires in and then close up the channeling. So I just take my wire. Generally the wires are going to have one colored end. You can see this end is got a little green dot, like a grass green dot on it. That's generally what goes to the center front, but you should just take a look at the wire, and generally you want the shorter end to be towards the center front, and the sort of taller, longer end is going to be towards the underarm. So I'm just going to, if we look here, the underwire channeling is a tube, and you can just stick that wire inside of the tube. So you don't want it to be between the underwire channeling and the bra. You want it to actually be inside the channeling itself. So you can just slide that in, and it should go in pretty easily. That's why I always like to sew from the other side, so I don't narrow it too much. So we got our wire in, and then we're just going to take a tacking stitch like we've been using and go atop the cross there, and we are done with our bra. So you can see we just have that little line of tacking stitch on the top of the underwire channel, and now we have our wire in here, and the bra is completely finished. Well, that concludes the Berkeley Bra Sew Along. I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos, and I would love to see the creations that you guys have made using these instructions. Be sure to tag me at Liz Sews on Instagram so that I can see everything that you've made too. I'll see you next time.